And we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is that you are in this world. Welcome to Living World of Darkness, New York by Night. And this scene, we will find ourselves at the Columbia University in New York, in Manhattan. Rose is meeting with Rick Grayson, Malkavian. She has extended him an invitation because, well, first of all, she's never actually got to know any of the Malkavians of the city better, so it seemed like a fine opportunity. And as he is going to talk to the changelings and be the contacts for them, some information might be handy, some information that she may be able to provide. So other than that, she or the two of them had contact. They set this place and it's time to meet up. And Rose is sitting in the office of the late Dr. Softly. She has two crystal glasses standing on the desk, bottle, some red liquid in it next to it, and she's waiting for a knock on the door.
And not too much longer, that knock will come.
Rose will smile. She stands up, walks towards the door, and just because this is actually the first time that Mr. Grayson comes over to the university, she activates Mythoseria 1. So any lies that the character knows about, so accidental lies do not count in this, she will immediately recognize them. And she will open up the door. Ah, Mr. Grayson, please, come in.
Rick will smile. Good to see you. And walk in through the door.
Would you like a refreshment? Something to drink?
No, I'm fine.
Very well. Please take a seat. She points to some leather chairs that are in the corner of the office, and there's a small coffee table.
And Rick will have a seat. And before we go any further, I'm going to roll my nightmares roll. Why not? Difficulty 8 instead of 7. Oh, he still passes. Okay, Rick's sitting there in the chair.
And Rose will walk to the desk for a moment, pouring in a glass some of the red liquids, Vitae, and she will then return to the sitting corner, takes a seat as well. She crosses her legs and smiles as she takes a sip. Well, how have you been?
I've been well. I've been working on my latest novel. Have you read any of my books?
I know they have been standing in my library. Well, it's still being restored, so I cannot actually check up on it. I probably would have if, well, never mind. So I'm afraid not. I usually focus on study books, not novels. But as soon as my library is fully restored and the books have returned, I can assure you, I will definitely read them. I'm very interested.
Might appreciate some of the philosophy in there. Who knows? At any rate, this will be my 4th book so far. I'm hoping that it will be as successful as the last.
I hope so too. What's the theme gonna be?
Well, all of them are within the same universe. It's sort of a modern fantasy horror universe. You might like it.
Well, it sounds rather interesting, but is there like a general theme, like loss or love or deceit, something like that?
Rick sort of sits back in the chair and thinks for a minute. It's hard to boil it down to a single word. A lot of it has to do with my own philosophies, my own perspectives on reality. But I suppose if there was a theme, it would be becoming.
Hmm, growth.
Something like that.
Now you really got me curious. Can I pre-order a copy?
Sorry, what were you saying?
Can I pre-order a copy?
Of course, as soon as I'm done, you'll know.
Hmm, amazing. It's always nice to have someone who writes books in your social circles, I think they call it. I just read them. I'm afraid I would make a very poor writer.
So he sort of looks around the room a little bit and then back to Rose. Is there any particular reason you called me here tonight? Is there something wrong?
Well, no, there's not necessarily something wrong, but I've promised you that I would give you some information on, well, some knowledge about the Fae and the Changelings, since you're now the person to go to when it comes to their kinds.
Ah, that would be helpful. What do you know about them?
Well, I have a few books here. They describe what's different kinds of, well, I suppose you could call them not necessarily Fae anymore, but changelings. They have they have different kinds of them, like we are different kinds. Same. We're all kindred, but we're still different families. They have something like that as well. Some information on that for you, if you like. A little bit about their society.
Rick will look down at the books, sort of smiling. You're saying I can borrow these?
Yes, as long as you keep them safe.
Well, that's very generous of you. Calypso, well, did you know Calypso?
I'm afraid I have never had the pleasure of meeting her. I have heard about her, though.
Ah, well, you might have heard that she disappeared.
Yes.
When she did, she willed her two brownstones on the same street to myself. In them, she has quite a library herself. Not so much occult knowledge as it is, well, mundane fiction.
Even those still hinge, often enough, on a little bit of truth.
Well, that's the point of fiction. You tell the truth by telling lies.
I've always been more interested in finding the truth and finding the answers than disguising it.
I've found that sometimes there are truths so complicated, or maybe even so abrasive to the self, that trying to communicate them outright just doesn't work. Either people don't understand or they don't want to accept the idea when it's given to them. So you color it, you weave a tale to communicate this truth, to give examples. You can tell someone something 10, 15 words, they'll never remember it. And they'll never commit its truth to themselves. You tell them the same truth in 300, 400 pages, they'll remember that.
And that's what you do with your novels, I presume.
Exactly. Well,
They are
my own
becoming
truth.
more and more intriguing. I might even go as far as to go to the storage box where they keep the books. See if I can find them before the library gets reopened.
Oh, well, if you read the first 3, you'll be caught up for the 4th.
I'll see what I can do. Else we always have the internet to order them.
Sorry, what?
Oh, she was just saying that else they always, yeah, she can always order them online.
Oh, right.
Well, I hope these books will intrigue you as much as they did me. And she's just gonna grab hold of them, and she sorry, she starts to hand them over to you, but before they actually reach your hands, she just kind of freezes, and the books drop out of her hands as she's just staring into space. As a second vision hits her at that point.
Rick will sort of lean forward, looking at her as she's staring off into space. Miss Rose? Are you okay?
It takes about, I think, 5 minutes or so before she will actually answer you. Or before she will actually, like, snap back and looks at you again. She's shivering a little bit.
Rick will sit back in the chair a little, look around. There weren't any, like, assistants outside her door or anything, right?
Well, you were escorted to the door by a security personnel, but they left before the door opens.
Rick will sort of look around, like, not really sure what to do in this situation. He'll stand up from the chair and go over to her side. I assume there's like a table or something between them and they're facing each other. Okay, he'll go over to her side of the table and sort of lean down next to her and sort of waving a hand in front of her face and snapping a few times, trying to wake her up. And I'm assuming that won't even work. So at that point, he'll just sort of stand back up, back away a little, look around. What is the room like? What is in the room?
It's it's basically kind of like a deacon's office, I'd say. So there's a big, there's like a really big wooden desk. Off to the sides there are several bookshelves. There's nothing occult if you're gonna check out. It's geography, history, stuff like that, philosophy that you'll find on those shelves. There's a small cabinet, and there's a sitting corner, and the room has two windows which look out on a parking lot.
Rick will go back around to the other side of the table. Take up. How many of these different occult books are on the table? Is it one? Is it more than one?
There were two.
Okay. He'll pick up the other one, the one that she didn't drop and is now staring at, and sit back in the chair across from her. Just sort of and look down at the book, and sort of open it, and just kind of start skimming it while occasionally glancing up, kind of concerned at Rose to see if anything's changed over the course of the few minutes that he's been looking at the book.
Well, as I said, in like 5 minutes or so, she just seems to be able to collect herself again. So she blinks a few times, and she's like making gasping sounds as her eyes focus once again on the surroundings, and she sits up and she's like, "I'm terribly sorry, Miss Grayson. Really." And she picks up the book that fell on the floor, but you can see that her hand was shaking a little bit.
Rick will reach over and help her pick the book up and just take that and set them down in his lap. And are you okay?
I don't know. It's never happened so quickly after another, usually.
What happened?
From time to time, it's gonna probably sound a little weird, but maybe with someone from your particular ilk, maybe not that weird. From time to time, I see things like visions.
Visions of what?
Well, that's the interesting part. They're often riddles. They need to be solved. I don't know what I saw exactly. I don't know it yet.
Rick will sort of lean back in the chair and think for a minute. Riddles? What sort of riddle?
Well, not as in actually words, but just the images, they don't necessarily make sense. So, but there is a deeper meaning to it. And sometimes I don't know until something happens, and then I realize that that's the answer. And from time to time I manage to figure them out, and sometimes can even prevent certain things from happening.
You mean the things in these visions, they happen?
Yes, they are usually connected to something that is happening or is gonna happen, or sometimes something that has happened but leaves a very strong memory, a very strong emotion behind.
Rick sort of just sits there thinking, but clearly not disbelieving her. So, what was this vision?
Well, it looks very similar to the previous one. I had one yesterday where I was standing in the kitchen, and I had a carton of eggs, and I wanted to prepare them, and when I cracked them into a silver bowl, they were empty until the last three of them. When I grabbed one of those three eggs, and I cracked it, there was something inside there, but it wasn't the normal egg stuff. The egg whites and yellow. There was an eye in the egg, and it fell into the bowl, and it started glowing red, and then it turned to ashes. And just now, it happened again. But instead of three eggs being not empty, there were only two. And once again, when I cracked one of them, there was the eye that glowed up and turned to ash. And there was one whole egg left. I wanted to grab it, but I guess I lost the vision at that point.
Do you have any idea what this means?
I am not sure yet. I had a few ideas, but they don't add up. I thought since there was a kitchen, it could have had something to do with the disappearance of Mr. Peck. Did you hear that his place got burned down last night?
Burned down? How did
Yes.
that happen?
I heard this from Mr. Limey and Mr. Green, whom I met yesterday. Apparently, Ghost and Miss Sheridan were investigating when a trap was sprung and the place was set on fire.
Did they make it out?
Yes, they did. Although I did believe that they got hurt, but I'm not sure of that. I saw Ghost when I entered the new club of Mr. Limey. She seemed to be disturbed, but well.
Well, I'm glad they made it out.
Mhm. Well, but that was my first guess that it had something to do with that, since, well, kitchen, eggs, and he was a chef. The eye could have represented his second sight, but I have the feeling that it's not that. It might be something else.
Something else?
Yes, I'm not quite sure yet. I have the feeling that I'm missing a point. There's more. There lies more importance in the fact that there were 12 eggs and only 3 of them held something, and now only 2. It's like a countdown.
So, you said Ghost and Lady Sheridan went to check on Mr. Peck. I assume he wasn't there.
No, he
If his
was.
place burned down, that doesn't seem good. Where is he?
I don't know. I cannot believe that he would have left without telling anyone. I'm afraid something has happened. I don't think he would have left without naming a replacement for his keeper position. He was very proud. that.
These eyeballs turning to ash.
Hmm.
Does that suggest to you kindred?
The fact that they turn to ash might, I, it would make, it would strongly suggest kindred being involved. I don't know any other supernatural that turns into ash. Unless, unless the phoenix, but then they would they would get reborn again, and I didn't see that happening.
So I suppose what we're looking for is some kind of pattern of 1, 2, then 3. Or presumably 1, 2, then 3.
It would make sense. But there were also there were 9 empty eggs and only 3 with substance. I wonder what those 9 empty eggs would mean.
Don't know that I know enough to be of any real help in this.
Well, I guess all help is welcome.
I would suggest that maybe it was just unrelated, but from what I just saw, well, that didn't seem normal. I myself have, well, and Rick sort of smiles, daymares daily.
I see.
In my mortal days, it was nightmares, but it's helpful for horror writing, at least.
Hmm. Have you ever thought about if they hold truth or not?
It's an interesting question. It's actually something I, well, touch lightly on in my books. The idea that thoughts and dreams can have substance of reality, that for the individual, for the perspective of the witness, how is something that happened here, now, how is that memory really different from the memory of a lucid dream or a vivid nightmare? It's still an experience. It's still something you can learn something from. It's still something that might damage your psyche for a time afterward.
Yes. It can also be fleeting, going away.
I
Just
think
out of
such things have a very real potential.
I think so too.
For substance.
After all, um, a lot of people believe in the power of dreams, and it's not just cultural based. In fact, the changelings have their own realm of reality, which they call the dreaming, which is in a way as real as ours, and sometimes for them even realer, more real.
Do you know much about the dreaming?
I've been there a few times, but
Really?
hard to grab. Yes.
What was your experience like?
It was interesting. I learned a lot about myself, in particular in that, at least one of those trips. Um, some of the changelings took me along with them, and these ones were pretty um, focused on physical contact. But when we went to one of their havens, I think, we walked across a path, and I do remember that they told me that I shouldn't stray from the path, or else I would get lost. And we even got attacked by a thing that apparently also resides in the dreaming. They seem to have some kind of conflict going on there.
Conflict. So they have enemies in their own realm?
Yes, as far as I could tell, but I never inquired after it too much.
Hmm. Well, that's a potential point of agreement, I suppose. Enemy of your enemy, and all that.
Well, it might work.
Even if it's just lip service, it could help.
It might help, yeah. They have their own political games. It's basically like Camarilla and Sabbat. Within the Camarilla, there are several power struggles going on between the clans. But then there's also the problem with the different sects, like the Sabbat. The
Hmm.
Changelings have their own versions of that.
So I guess the infighting is born from that. The division between their sort of sects.
Hmm. I don't know, to be honest. As I said, I never really required after it. I know there are different sects, but I don't even know if they call it that.
Hmm. Well, things I'll have to ask about.
Well, if you have any information, I would like to know about it. I have a personal interest in them.
A personal interest? You study them?
My sire, well, not Dr. Softly, but my hi, how would you call that? Genetic sire, maybe? My first sire, let's call it that. And I studied them very long. He knew more about it than I did.
Well, I certainly look forward to learning more. And he'll sort of glance down to the two books in his lap. and smile.
Well, if you have those two finished, I might be able to find some more. But I would need to look for them.
Sorry, I missed about 3 seconds of what you were saying.
Oh, wow. I said, if you have those two finished, I might have more, but I'll have to look for them.
Oh, really? Well, I think this will take me some time at any rate, and I'll sort of hold them up to show the thickness, especially with, trying to write my own at the moment. But
I can
this
understand that.
will be an interesting read.
Well, one piece of advice, keep them interested. They get
Interest.
bored. They get bored easily. If you keep them interested, be mysterious and be unexpected. Leave them to guess things about you. Do things that they do
So
not expect you to do.
laugh a little. It's, well, I would be the last person to claim that I am myself how should I put it? I'm no social butterfly, but I'll look to Rose and smile and kind of nod. I'll do my best to keep them entertained.
They get entertained in different ways than we do. Don't worry, I am quite awkward in social situations, yet I manage to get along with them.
Hmm. They sound like strange creatures.
They are. They are unique.
Rick will sit back in the chair and he'll sort of look up, like he's almost looking at the wall above Rose for a minute. Your description of your vision made me think of something. I don't know if it's anything, but, well, let me explain. I told you I have nightmares or daymares, whatever. Anyway, normally they're within a consistent sort of spectrum. You know what I mean?
You mean as in a storyline?
Sort of. My nightmares typically seem like they could take place within the same novel if they were written.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, I'll have one which is unlike any of the others. It's not like it came out of my head. Recently, I had two of these, and they were both similar. Sort of like you were explaining, but didn't have anything to do with eggs or eyeballs or turning to ash. He'll sort of sit there and think for a moment, trying to recall the dream. And the first one was very bizarre. There was a woman, I think, a woman A woman and a cigarette. And she was moving almost like a slow movie reel, like one frame at a time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was nothing. And then there was wind chimes. And he looks almost perplexed by this, like the notion of just wind chimes. Like, why the fuck wind chimes?
Wind chimes.
Wind chimes. Just over and over, wind chimes.
You saw wind chimes in your vision.
No, I heard them. Over and over, I heard them.
Have you talked to Mr. Green or Limey or Mr. Dales lately?
No, why?
There has been a second murder.
A second one?
Yes.
Rick sort of sits up and looks like, whoa. This sort of correlates with your dream as well, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It does. And but more so with yours. As I saw pictures, they had pictures of the body, and it looked like a human wind chime.
Rick looks very... It's hard to explain how he looks. He looks very interested and very disturbed simultaneously.
I think you can basically see that look mirrored into Rose's face.
Tell me something. Was this body given kindred blood as well?
I do not know. They're still trying to get a way to get hold of the bodies. At this point, they don't even know the location where this was found yet. All they have is the pictures.
This raises all kinds of questions. I hadn't even gotten to the second dream. The second dream I had uh, just a couple days ago, I think. It was... I woke up hearing wind, just howling wind, and wind chimes chiming, like they were being blown off their hinges. And I rushed outside, and there was no wind, and no wind chimes. When did this murder happen?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. They just told me that they gave me the pictures. I don't think that they'd even know. I know they're trying to find a location. I might be able to get a reading off of that, but
Hmm.
I managed it with the bleach bottle, by the way. I should really
Well,
let Mr. Green
what
know.
about bleach bottle?
Um, there are certain kindred who have the ability to look and touch objects and feel certain things from it, from the object, where it has been, who has held it, things like that. I have a similar way of absorbing the aura of objects, but also of areas. So Mr. Green gave me the bleach can last night.
Second. I will be right back.
Yep. We apologize for the small interruption, ladies and gentlemen. Please feel free to fast forward a little bit until Rick comes back and the conversation will continue.
Okay, I'm back.
Yep.
Telling me about the bleach bottle and being able to sense things when touching it.
Mm-hmm. So I um I tried it last night. Um, well, of course, there was the blood, there was murder, there was pain. It was almost like I could feel the injuries that were made on the person that was murdered, the first person. Could feel someone's lips being placed on mine, and I could feel hands on me. And I'm quite sure at this point that I felt fangs in my neck as I started to grow colder and colder. I tried to, it hurted, and then it slowly died out, and I felt not much at that point. That was a moment when I could feel, even though I'm pretty sure that the person was dead at that time, I could feel the ropes being tied to me or to the body. I could feel that there was a knife which was shaving the body and cleaning it. And finally, I saw a person, a figure, very, very small, long sleeves, and he had gloves on. I couldn't really see anything else from this person except for the eyes. They were like crystal blue. And this person was humming something classical, I think. I don't know exactly. And that was everything that I got from it.
So we have a, an idea that the killer is Kindred.
Definitely. Unless you know something else that tries to suck you dry with the use of fangs.
And not only that, but there has been a second murder, and it's different from the first. There seems to be some kind of artistic pattern happening here. And from what you've told me about this vision, it seems as if there will be a third.
I think so, yes. And I'm kind of afraid what happens when we run out of eggs. It also seems like there may have been some others, but they did not get the right results? Maybe that would... No.
It's hard to say. We need to understand more about this individual's perspective. We need to understand what their motivation is.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe their obsession.
Right, but at any rate, they're attempting to accomplish something. We won't be
Yes.
able to understand what they'll try to do next unless we can understand what it is they're trying to do in the first place, what their reason for it is.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm gonna ask Limey to see if he could get some information with the police about maybe murders that, I don't know, maybe a record. I still have the feeling that there's something, maybe 9 murders that may have happened before that they didn't get the results.
Hmm. Seems like I'm going to have a meeting with Mr. Green.
If you could tell him that I have the results of the bleach bottle and if you would be willing to share with him what I told you. I'm not capable of meeting him tonight and I will not see him. I could of course mail him, but
I'll try to meet with him, but I don't know that I could relate what you saw better than you could. Maybe maybe you could send him a message and I'll tell him to expect it.
I will do
Or
that.
I could bring it to him.
Hmm. Yes, I think that might work best as she stands up and reaches for the or walks towards the desk and opens a drawer in it, gets out some paper and a pencil and starts writing down what she had experienced on the from the bleach bottle. And she's also gonna tell him, by the way, that she had another vision with those eggs. This time, the second one, as he was there when she had the first. Well, if you meet with him and if you would be so kind as to give him this, then that would be great.
Rick will nod and smile and take the note and stick it behind the cover of one of the two books for safekeeping.
Well, it seems like I've taken up so much more of your time than I actually expected to.
Rick will smile and shake his head. Oh, it was fine. It was very interesting, actually. I'd never expected any of my nightmares to have, well, any more significance than I gave them.
Well, maybe you should keep an eye out for those odd ones out.
Very cool. Nod and pick up the two books from the chair and back to Rose. Who else knows about this second murder? You said Mr. Green and...
I've heard this from Mr. Green and Mr. Limey of my clan, the Brudja. I know that they got their information from Mr. Dales as well. I am not quite sure if anyone else knows at this point. I suspect Ghost might know, as she was there with them before me.
I'll have to make an effort to meet with Limey as well then.
Well, if you want to, I can give you the address of his new club.
Oh, really? That would be helpful. I only have his number.
And,
Has a club? His own club?
yes, a jazz club in Harlem.
Oh, of course.
Rose will get another piece of paper and write down the address and send that over to Rick as well.
Rick will nod and thank her and stick that behind the front cover of one of the books as well.
Well, Mr. Grayson, it was very nice to meet with you and talk to you in a more intimate setting.
Of course, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Most definitely.
Rick will smile and sort of nod his head to her politely before, I guess, showing himself out.
Oh, she will walk you to the door and open it and actually walks with you downstairs, but she will not leave the building.
For a reason.
Oh, never go out unprepared when you're tall, blue, and nah. Anyway, I think unless you want to do something, this will be an appropriate time to end the scene.
Let me do 2 rolls real quick, actually, since I'm doing a scene anyway. First,
Estes, this is your cue.
Anna's investigation roll. Come on, Anna. Hey! Aw. Just one success.
It's a
Uh,
success.
and now I'm going to have to open a document to remember what I have to do for this one. Going to do Rick's novel writing roll, which is Intelligence Expression Difficulty 5. 4, 6, okay. Ooh.
Nice.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 successes. Good job, Rick. Okay. And those are my 2 weekly rolls.
And then I guess we can call it a scene now. Everybody, thanks for watching and have a good night.